Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday for the Financial Freedom newsletter, where every week, every Wednesday, we delve into something inspirational, motivational, something excerpt taken from the Financial Freedom weekly newsletter. Wherever you are, if you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, Google, be sure to click the like, subscribe, share, comment. And without ado, let's get into the show. Guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm really excited about today's guest, Victor. He's a former tech founder turned life and business coach, and I love all things related to entrepreneurship, personal development, and he's going to talk to us about human consciousness, spirituality, and I love having the platform to have fireside chat about Victor's life and his work. So Victor, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Chris.
Yeah, we connected through Podmatch, and it's kind of like the Airbnb for podcasts.
It definitely is. It's a really cool idea. I'm fairly new to it, but I've connected with a lot of people really quickly. It's super, super cool. So yeah.
Yeah. And so tell people about your story, your background, how you got started, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. It's funny, in a lot of my sessions, group sessions, I do this thing where I ask people to tell their life story in 2 minutes in as much detail as possible. So I'm gonna try to do that. So we'll see where we get to. But yeah, so I am the son of two Cameroonian immigrants. It's a small country in West Africa. They immigrated here in the 1980s. Their whole belief was just grind, right? Like, it was just that immigrant story of just like get here, hustle, and like live the American dream. And so that's what I grew up in. My dad said, study your books, go get a good education, get a degree, and like all will be well. And so I followed that, right? Went to the University of Maryland, got a degree in government and politics, graduated, was like, wow, I don't want to work in politics, landed in real estate. And I just didn't have a good time in corporate America. And so I said, okay, well, there's this thing, I was watching Shark Tank. There's this thing called entrepreneurship. Like, let me take a swing at that, right? Like, I had a buddy out in San Francisco. He was like, they're giving away millions of dollars to people to build businesses. And so together we started a company called RemodelMate. That was in early 2014, 2015. And we did the whole thing, raising venture capital, building the team, scaling. We did it all. We did all that whole thing. And at the end of about 4.5 years, I was burnt to a crisp. I was burned out bad. And so I blamed the business. I said, okay, it's because I did this business. If I wasn't in tech, if I was doing something that fed my soul a little bit more, I would be happier. So I started a marketing consultancy, helping people like myself scale their businesses. And I did that for another 4 years, and I burned out all over again. I said, wow, there's something really wrong, and that's kind of what brought me here. That's kind of really, during that time, I kind of had an awakening of sorts and really kind of realized, like, man, it's not really about work. It's not really about how you make the money. All these external things matter. We all have to survive. But if you don't have this inner alignment, then it doesn't really matter. I tell people, and this is going to sound really morbid, I promise I'm done, but, billionaires commit suicide too, right? Like, so it's a real thing. Money doesn't fix that inner thing. And so anyway, I decided to become a coach, and here we are.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And I think your story resonates with a lot of people, especially that corporate. Yeah. So one thing is talking about, which is really interesting, is when is enough? We always have this like number or this destination. Elaborate on that.
Man, it's such a tough one, right? Because enough, it's like, okay, I'm going to answer your question very straightforward. Enough. When is enough enough? It depends. What I tell people is the money thing is about making a decision. So it's not really about, there's no really enough, right? Enough for me could be 10,000. There's a guy, I just watched a documentary, a guy in Appalachia. He has a huge, lots of acres, farm, all this stuff. And his goal is to make the least amount of money possible. That's his goal. successful, right? So, and for some, it's $1 billion, right? It's not really about the number, right? You pick a number. Who cares? Pick the number, whatever the number is, pick it. But just recognize what it is, that it's just a number, and it's a tool, and it'll give you certain things. And maybe the things you want are a huge mansion on an island somewhere. Fantastic, no problem. But it's not going to change this thing. So I tell people there is no enough. It's just pick a number, right? Like, and if that doesn't feel quite right, pick another number. Pick a number, So that's kind of my approach to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It's a decision and not a destination.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is, so talking about, you've kind of had this very unique journey, and talk about failures. So how has failures or apparent failures set you up for success later?
Man, failure. I tell failure is a prerequisite to success. That's kind of my adage. If you're not willing to fail, then you're not willing to succeed. I think that if I had one secret, one big unlock, is that I love failing. I mean, I'm like, the more failure, the better, because you learn quicker. The faster you fail, the quicker you learn. So I think that's one of the biggest hurdles to entrepreneurship. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you're on this podcast. I'm sure there were many, many hurdles all along the way. But it's a prerequisite. You can't win without failing. I mean, it's just what it is, And so I think if someone's listening and they're concerned about failure, I'm like, well, just get comfortable with it. Get really familiar, like embrace it. It's a beautiful thing. It's what takes you there. I
love that. In a startup, it's increase your iteration and your failure rate.
Exactly. I mean, you can't. I mean, it sucks at first, but then you can fall in love with it, right? Because it kind of increases that velocity. Like the faster you fail, in a very real way, the faster you succeed, and it's kind of cool to see. Like, man, I just messed that up like 20 times, but wow, on the 21st time, this thing off into the moon, and you kind of get addicted to it, kind of like figuring out how fast can I get to success. I think for me, I as you can tell, I'm a little enthusiastic about the failing thing. The more you do it, the better you get. So I love it.
Yeah. Well, so one thing that's talking about is this kind of you took you got clarity and you got centered at what you wanted. And one thing is, in the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Wow. I'm going to answer this. I would love for you to answer this too, because I myself am always trying to figure out what people are doing. So, man, wow, there's so many. I'll say the one, if someone wanted to try something today that could like maybe make an immediate impact on their here and now, I think the most powerful thing I've started doing in the last 5 years is breath work. Oh. I think because that the mind likes to chatter, the mind likes to, we all, especially as business people, we're always kind of go. And I've tried a lot of things. I've tried meditation. I've tried essential oils. I mean, I've tried a lot of stuff, but something that like takes me from like peak, let's call it anxiety, to just is breath work. 10 minutes. And I mean, the mind just kind of centers itself. And so breath work has been a huge game changer for me. I mean, it's been a super game changer. Yeah. How about you?
One thing that's really helped is going to bed really early. When the sun sets, I'm in bed. I'm already, and it reminds me like when I was a kid. But,
how early? So wait, we're talking like 8, 6, 7, 8?
8:30. That's like the best time. And then you wake up like around, fresh, 4 o'clock, and you're ready. Yeah, wow. That's been the one thing that's improved a lot.
Wow, that's early. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. The other thing is entrepreneurship is talking about boundaries, and especially doctors, we're people pleasers. We try to say yes to everything, but I've learned that saying no. So what have you become better at saying no to?
Man, you know what? What have I become? A lot of things. I think saying no to myself, if I'm being completely transparent. I think I think we are our biggest saboteur, you know, the person, you know, me. All right. And so, you know, sometimes you want to eat that extra donut and no more donuts, you know, like it's just, you know, and so I think not giving in to every desire that I have, really being willing to say no for the sake of discipline, you know, in your case, going to bed at 8. I'm sure there are times where you're like, you know, it'd be nice to stay up a little later and watch the movie, right? But you're like, no. So I would say for me, it's just saying no to myself, really. You know, when things don't necessarily align with the larger goal.
Yeah, I love that. Saying no. The more I talk to entrepreneurs, the more they say no. It's like 99% no, and then 1% yes.
Yeah, it's seriously. So. You gotta that focus, you know, it's all of the power, you know, knowing I think I would say that's the hardest part about entrepreneurship is, especially when you start, it's like you got this ocean, you know, and there's all these islands that you could land on, and trying to figure out the perfect island with the perfect breeze, you know, and the fruit that you like is the hardest part, you know, because sometimes, you know, I don't know about you, I don't love papaya, but I love a mango. So finding the island with the mangoes.
Talking about centering and calming yourself, when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, like scatterbrained, what do you do?
My favorite thing is to just go outside. I think it's the simplest one. I like right after we do this, I'm gonna probably go outside in the backyard and sitting amongst the plants and trees and just, you know, sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes, but I think for me that's the easiest one. If you don't have access, because I used to live in the city, if you don't have access to outside, I would say breathe. I mentioned breath work earlier. I think you have access to it at all times, and it really, really works. And it can be as simple as deep inhales and exhales. Sometimes that's all it takes. So I would say, getting outside, nature and breathing.
Yeah, I love that. Nature baths. It's amazing what the breath can do. You just focus and center like that. Just that simple act can change your world. Is very powerful.
Yeah. It's so, you know, what's crazy? You just mentioned nature breaths. I just heard the same documentary I was watching. Apparently over in the East, they are actually prescribing. I don't know if it's Tokyo or Singapore. I can't remember, but people are it might be Japan. They're so overworked that the doctors are actually prescribing nature baths. It's a new, like, just go into nature for like an hour. That's the prescription. Go outside into the forest. And so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sound baths. I think sound baths, healing sound baths. That's a new. But the one thing is, what is one idea that you believe could transform anyone's life?
It's a powerful question. You know, and I don't know how this is going to land, but I'm going to say it. I think it's that you are not your thoughts, that you're not your thoughts. You know, there is actually a distinction between you and your mind. And I think when that idea takes hold, you get a lot more power back because you start realizing that every thought that runs into your head that isn't yours, nor is it you. And so, you know, you could just ignore it. Right? You don't have to investigate it because it's not yours, you know. And so for me, that's been really powerful. Again, it helps with discipline, right? Because the reality is I actually don't want the additional donut. The mind, the body may want it, but me, I don't want it. No, I would rather not, right? And although maybe the mind and the body, well, let's call it the ego, if we're getting really spiritual about it, maybe want to watch another hour of TV because it's gratifying. But me, the one who actually wants to feel more prosperous, more alive, more on purpose, no, I want to go to bed, right? And being able to start to get really clear on like, hey, I'm not actually the physical sensations. I'm not my hunger. Like my hunger is not me. You know, my thoughts are not me. And really starting to come back to that centeredness. Like, I think that's a really powerful idea. And if you can grab hold, it can have some pretty massive changes.
What is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you just absolutely love?
Stale cake.
Stale cake. Yeah.
This is weird. Yeah. Stale birthday cake. I a memory. Me and my brother, very, very early on, we had a birthday party. My parents left the cake in the basement. They didn't know that it was still there. So for like a week, my brother and I had access to an abundant amount of just cake. And even when it went stale, we kept eating it. And so I have a weird affinity towards stale cake, not because I think it tastes good, because it doesn't, but I think it reminds me of that memory. And so yeah, it's something that I kind of love. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I know,
right? I know. You didn't see that one coming.
Yeah. And as we're kind of at the end, I have two more questions. And one is just kind of for entrepreneurs out there, we think one particular investment or class is really what's the best or most worthwhile investment you've ever made?
I think for me, best or most worthwhile. That's a hard one. I'm going to go with the one that will most serve an entrepreneur. I think that would be investing in the skill set of marketing. I think that sales and marketing. So pick your, either one. They're kind of equally valuable. But to the extent that you know how to generate money, right, through marketing and sales, I mean, you acquire a tremendous amount of independence, right? And so I think I've spent a lot of money on marketing training, a lot of money. And I think that from a business perspective, it's been one of the most valuable things I could have ever done.
Yeah. Marketing, sales. Yeah, I love that. And being able to grab attention, form a community, engagement.
Yeah. Kind of like what you're doing here, right? Like, I mean, this is very much so. I mean, you found a way to create a platform. You found a way to get guests here and have meaningful conversations. And you're doing that week after week after week. I mean, that takes a lot of skill. There's a lot. It seems easy, right? But it's not actually, like, to do what you're doing, from the technical piece all the way to the inviting of guests, all the way to I don't know if you're doing the post-production, but even if you're outsourcing it, I mean, there's a lot of skill, and all of that goes into the marketing kind of, knowledge base that's required. So yeah. I think it's really valuable.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this conversation. It kind of reminds me of just how messed up our society is. And so, one final thought is like, who's at fault? Is it the media? Can we really be free?
Yeah. Wow. That's another good one. I don't know if you're going to like my response. I don't think anyone's at fault. I think that if there is any blame, and I don't think there is, but if there is blame, we can only blame, honestly, ourselves. And I wouldn't even call it blame. I would say taking personal responsibility, because ultimately the reality is, like, people are just living their lives the way they want to live it. There are people right now who have no idea. They have no awareness of any of the things that we are aware of. They're going about their lives. They're happy as could be. They don't have a whole lot, maybe, or maybe they do, but we all have a choice, right? You don't have to live in this Western society. You could, so I would say no one. I would go as far as say, if it's not your preference, then leave. It's a real thing, and if you don't like it, just know that you have the power to change your individual context. So that's what I would say. No one's to blame.
Yeah, I love that. I love you create your own reality. You don't have to subscribe to these ideals. You can live your life the way you want to. Just unplug the television, turn off social media. So
get out of there, and in a very real and meaningful way. If you really, really don't like it, people are doing this all over the place. You can pack up and go to South America or Africa, it's yours, right? And that takes some courage and some bravery, and that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. How can people contact you, check out your work, etc.?
Yeah, I am a big LinkedIn person. So if you want to connect with me on kind of a social level, you can reach me on LinkedIn. I post a lot. I talk a lot there. If you want to connect with me more directly, I don't know if you're going to provide access to my email. You can shoot me an email. I also have a website. If you want to just kind of check out some of the stuff I've talked about, it's called Art of Transfor. So there's a few ways I can provide that to you, and you can share it.
Yeah, excellent. And for all the audience out there, Victor's resources will be in the links. And let's thank him for coming onto the podcast, sharing some nuggets and gems. And be sure to reach out to him, LinkedIn. It's also on Instagram as well.
Yes, I am.
With that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you so much, Chris. This is amazing.
I hope you really enjoyed that wonderful, inspirational, motivational peace. Again, wherever you are listening, if you liked it, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, Audible. And without much ado, be sure to thank this show's sponsors, and we'll see you next week.